boiling over Westminster. Now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom. Your top story this hour. Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the government should suspend arms sales to Israel if it's clear that international law has been breached. It's after British aid workers John Chapman, James Henderson and James Kirby were killed when their convoy was hit by an Israeli airstrike while they were delivering vital food aid. They were part of a group of 7 aid workers from the World Central Kitchen Organisation. The charity's founder, Jose Andre, has accused Israeli forces in Gaza of targeting the workers systematically.
7 team members between the specialty security people we have, 3 British individuals and 3 international crew plus 1 Palestinian, that they were targeted systematically, car by car.
In other news, a new poll suggests Labour could sweep to victory with more than 400 seats at the next election, leaving the Tories with just 155. YouGov is predicting a landslide for Sir Keir Starmer, with the Conservatives projected to win even less seats than a previous poll conducted in January. And another change of leader may be off the cards, with other MPs, including Penny Mordaunt, Ian Duncan-Smith and Jacob Rees-Mogg, all trailing their Labour challengers. And the Reform UK party has removed 2 parliamentary candidates for making statements that they say fell beneath their standards. Jonathan Kay and Mick Greeno will no longer contest seats after campaign group Hope Not Hate accused them of sharing racist views on social media. At least 9 people have died, with more than 900 injured after a major earthquake in Taiwan. This was the moment it struck the East Coast this morning. Tremors were recorded as high as 7.7 magnitude during the morning rush hour. News anchors, rocked by the earthquake during live broadcasts, remained steady on air whilst the newsroom was shaking. Rescue teams are now working into the night in search of survivors. More than 100 are thought to be trapped in tunnels under buildings or stuck under landslides. And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me with jokes and insight is heterodox Jewish Josh Howie and homodox Scott Caporo.
What?
I was thinking Orthodox Jew, but you're not Orthodox, are you?
I'm a heterodox Jew.
You're a heterodox Jew. Josh, by the way, just to explain, learnt the word heterodox for the first time the other day, and now he can't stop using it.
I can't.
It's actually getting quite annoying.
It is, but I still don't know what it means, but I'm just using it a lot.
Don't tonight, please. Scott, how are you?
It sounds like a fake Oreo cookie.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't sound real.
No, it doesn't.
So we'll see if we can get through the whole show without using the
Heterodox.
word heterodox. Right, let's have a look at the front pages now. The Daily Mail is running with MPs caught in naked honey trap sexting. Exciting stuff. We're going to cover that. The Telegraph has got judges to look at soft terms for deprived offenders. The Guardian is running with former Supreme Court judges add voices to calls for Israeli arms ban. The Times has got blood tests to help spot Alzheimer's years earlier. And The Express, PM, we will quit Eurocourt if Rwanda flights are blocked. And finally, of course, the Daily Star going rogue with Excalibur, Arise. Those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off by looking at Thursday's Telegraph, and Josh Howie has the details.
Yeah, first of all, there's a little picture at the top there. Lionel Shriver, transgenderism is a social media. Just saying it aloud, which is good. That's pretty cool.
You know, I mean...
We've known that, but now when you're seeing that on the front page of a newspaper...
People get very upset about the idea of social contagion when it comes to this, but it's clearly...
yeah, that's what it is. I think it's a 4,000% increase amongst girls.
Yeah.
Against young girls. Anyway, so seeing that kind of stuff. Anyways, from Lionel, and I'm a big fan of his work.
I actually looked that person up to make sure that had been born a woman, and it was.
Lionel is a girl's
Did you
name
hear my
as well
pronouns?
as a boy's
Are you
name.
impressed? It was a woman, was born, it's still a woman.
Yeah,
There we go.
No,
How rare.
No misgendering on this show.
Indeed.
Josh, what is the main
But the big
story?
headline, judges to look at soft terms for deprived offenders. So this is the Sentencing Council, and they've met up and they've basically unilaterally decided this thing. It's not been voted in, it's not been put through any kind of law or governance involvement, legislated anyway. And it's quite a dangerous idea where if you... And I can see why some people would think this makes sense, but if you come from a deprived background, a socioeconomic background, or other factors that they think lead you to a life of crime or committing crime, then you would get a lesser offence. But critics have said, rightly, that first of all, that could lead to sort of two-tiered sentencing for someone caught or sentenced for the same crime who was more middle-class background, but also it's somewhat insulting to people from working-class or lower socioeconomic backgrounds who don't commit crimes.
But don't poor people steal things? I mean, isn't that the point?
Well, I
think
everybody steals things, but the rich people get away with a bit more, slightly bigger stuff.
I think they're worried that people without money, who I know you don't know any, but people without money might have lesser representation in court. Their legal representation might suffer. So they're saying to balance that, they should get lesser of a sentence.
But aren't they talking really about the socio-economic background, as in people who come from deprived backgrounds are more likely to end up in criminality? But as you say, Josh, it's hugely patronising, isn't it, to say that you can't follow the law?
But is it if your lawyer sucks and it's been state appointed and that's all you can afford?
But it doesn't really talk about that in this article. That's one of the factors.
But I think that's one of the things they're trying to
But isn't it addressing the symptom rather than the cause? I mean, you know, I think there's probably statistical evidence, I know there is, to suggest that criminality is more common if you come from a deprived background. But doesn't that mean that we should be addressing the reasons why people are poorer? As in, can't we, strive for a fairer society where people aren't in that
that's exactly what it is,
Rather than just giving people lighter sentences if they commit crime.
Yeah, they're doing it after the fact.
Right.
Whereas, absolutely, that kind of resources. But, like I said, I think the thing that's slightly, I don't know, scary is maybe a little too much, but unnerving is that they can just do this by themselves. The Sentencing Council, the judges just have made this decision.
Well, it's not democratic, is it?
Yes.
There's that. But also, when rich people steal, they might do it less, but when they do, they steal a lot.
They get really good stuff.
They get great stuff.
Maybe we should try to change the goal.
Maybe that's what it is. Be more motivational.
Yeah.
Interesting. OK, well, we're going to move on now to the front cover of The Express. Scott, you've got this one, I think?
We will quit Eurocourt if Rwanda flights are blocked.
That's Rishi Sunak saying that, right?
I call Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi Sunak has decided to flex her muscles. Pronouns.
There's a lot of misgendering going on tonight.
I know. Well, it's time. Rishi Sunak, the MP and PM, has decided to fight a battle that he can't win, but he's trying to look really strong because there's an election. I think the election is going to be sooner than later.
So you think this is about, but surely at this point he knows that he's not going to win.
Yeah, but he says things like illegal immigration or immigration of any sort that's not legal. It offends my sense of fairness. So he's going that route. He's trying the classy route.
But, Josh, this is the European Court of Human Rights. I mean, there is a legitimate argument here, isn't there? Whatever you think about the Rwanda plan, the idea that a decision should be made within the UK that is then overruled by a foreign court, isn't there a democratic issue there?
There is a democratic issue there, but this is also one of these things that you always talk about, which is the laws of unintended consequences.
Yes.
We, the UK, were integral to setting up the European Court of Human Rights.
Yes.
If we were to leave it, then it may well affect our citizens badly in the future. So just to get this kind of one plane or a load of people away.
But is it just about... I mean, for me, because I don't think the Rwanda plan is a good plan, but I also...
It's expensive as heck, too.
Yeah, but I also think it's a dodgy not to... when all of the top legal executives in this country and all the top legal authorities and the High Court in the UK says, yes, we can legally do this, and then a foreign court says no, then it, for me, becomes about democracy. It doesn't become about the specific case. It becomes about democracy.
I mean, the strange thing is that other countries in Europe who are part of the European Court of Human Rights have been able to do something similar.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I know that Denmark has a similar policy and other countries are also looking into it.
Is Denmark using Rwanda?
I don't know. No, Denmark's using the UK.
That's what seems to turn people off.
I think people, yes, and
the Rwanda thing.
And the Rwandan government are very angry about that. They're finding it very insulting.
Yeah, they are. Rwanda's all right.
Isn't this the point, though, that these are judges in Strasbourg? None of us voted them in. I'm sure none of us could name any of them. Who are these people? Why do they get to decide anything that goes on in the UK?
They're trying to look after you.
Yeah.
But didn't Boris threaten to pull out of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been debates about this for ages, but, I think, does America sign up to any international courts?
I don't think they're part of the European Court.
No,
they're
anymore.
not.
My geography is...
Well, I'm just thinking, they wouldn't, but they wouldn't, would they? Like, it's the same with the EU. The Americans would never say, yeah, we'll outsource some of our democracy abroad.
Yeah, we had a big country, we got a lot of stuff to do. We don't have time.
You're busy.
Yeah. Busy.
That is fair. You're busier people.
Yeah.
Let's move on now to the Daily Mail. Josh has got this one.
Yeah, MPs caught up in naked honey trap sexting.
Yeah.
It's the 1990s.
You loved saying that.
I love it, yeah. But this is MPs across the political spectrum, Labour and Tory MPs, and it's something called spearfishing. Who knew this? The whole. Oh yeah, like you don't. Yeah, sure. I haven't heard of that.
I have not heard of that.
I don't know what that is.
So basically, you are targeted with information that they know stuff about you, and they know lingo, and they go, "Oh, how's your part?" They know the name of your partner.
Wait, this is a fake person who's going.
Fake person. They send you a tweet. Hey, how you doing? I met you at that thing. Good to see you. Hey, here's my buddy.
Oh, so spearfishing relates to the idea of targeting.
Yeah, it's like
throwing a spear.
Yeah, but a well-aimed spear, and then they send some nudes, and then you're like, oh well, I did meet this person at that point. I must have, because they're sending me their nudie doodies.
And MPs have been caught up in this.
MPs, yeah, well, and also some staff. A staff member got caught up.
So this has happened before. There was an MP, Brooks Newmark, was it? Had a similar thing was sent. It's a form of entrapment.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying.
But what happens to you if you say, "Oh, I do know this person who's sending me nude photos"?
Well, you don't know them. That's the thing.
No, but even if you don't, and you say you do, what's the result?
That's fine. But then you send your. They say, "Oh, here's my."
Oh, then
boobs.
you send yours.
You go, here's
do
my
you
boobs.
think, Scott, though, that if someone effectively does resort to entrapment, gets you to reply to a sexual text, should they be punished for that? I mean, because
I guess it depends on the result. Really, again, what happens to you. If you're punished, then I guess they should be, because their intent is to get you caught up in something that's, I guess...
Yeah, but should the MPs be punished? Because, I mean, entrapment has always been a controversial thing, but I kind of think it's not
If they're sitting
fair.
in their office at work, I guess they should be...
Well, I don't know what they've necessarily done wrong, but it's that whole thing. It's like, we're so polite in this country. If someone sends you, like, a nude photo, you're like... I don't really want to send a nude photo, but I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You could send a nude photo to somebody else. I do that all the time. It's funny.
I wish you would stop.
I know. Well,
please.
OK, let's move on now to the Daily Star. I'm glad we're moving on, because that was getting a bit X-rated for me. Getting a bit hot
steamy in here.
Let's go to the Daily Star. Now, of course, the Daily Star always runs with bizarre stories, Scott.
Yeah.
And today is no exception.
They're looking for the magical Excalibur sword that King Arthur's legend said existed. No one's sure if it did, but if it did, this program called Weird Britain says there are several possibilities for locations.
But this is just an advert for that show, isn't it?
I guess.
This show Weird Britain. It's not the Daily Star trying to find the Excalibur.
They're being paid for this. I also think that a lot of people are online a lot.
Yes.
And they think they know everything.
Well, let's be honest.
But it is fun looking for treasure.
Sure. It didn't exist.
We do it on this show all the time.
Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, for Ofcom reasons, we should say that it did exist.
I don't know if Ofcom's really concerned about Arthurian legend.
I think we're going to get a lot of complaints if we don't say that Excalibur existed.
But did the lady in the lake exist, or is it just some woman going for a bathe?
I
have a nude photo of her, if that helps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, you've probably studied all this stuff, haven't you?
I actually haven't. I haven't studied
this is something you haven't studied?
My period was Renaissance. This is medieval.
I didn't even know that.
You know,
look at you with your big words again, medieval.
Really?
That's not a big word.
Syllables.
That's pretty big for me.
4 syllables. That's all.
My head hurt.
Look, but anyway, they're not going to find Excalibur sword because I don't think it existed. But good luck for them. It's always fun. I saw a preacher online talking about how he's found Sodom and Gomorrah. Sounds fun.
Yeah. I've been to that bar many times. I saw some photos of Loch Ness. They're resurfacing those, too.
They're trying to find the monster again, are they?
And that's fun, too. People are bored. They want to go look for fun things.
Yeah.
Like, everyone loves those videos you see online of someone having their photo taken when the shark is coming up from behind them. I mean, they're probably fake, but it's fun to watch.
I think all of this is fake. But yeah, it'd be great if we found Nessie. I'd love that.
Yeah. Excalibur,
the
Nessie,
extremes are the best, right?
OK, well, look, that's the newspaper's bodywork checked. In the next section, we go under the bonnet with Humza beating JK, teachers giving themselves a break, and Rent, not the musical. See you in 2.
Good Afternoon Britain. Weekdays from midday.
When I was president of the Durham Union, back in 2016-17, I was hosting a debate, which was the question, this House sees China as a threat to the West. Now, it wasn't saying that that's what we believed. That was a question.
Up for debate.
On one side, we had the former Foreign Secretary, Sir Malcolm Rifkind. On the other side, we invited a woman by the name of Anastasia Lin. Now, she's someone who's been expelled from China for her human rights activism. She's a former Miss World contestant who's a great speaker. But we started getting loads of complaints into my inbox from Chinese students at Durham University, and they started to say, why are you hosting this debate? Why have you invited Anastasia Lin? She is banned from China. You can't host this woman. You can't host her. You can't have her
Were they copy
in your
and paste
debate.
jobs?
They were all very, very similar. And we were sort of thinking, well, this is a union that is hundreds of years old, founded on the principles of free speech. We're not going to listen because some students are upset. And then it got to the point where I was pulled out of a tutorial that I was in, told to go to the union office and take a phone call from the Chinese embassy. And so I was taking a phone call here from diplomats in the Chinese embassy saying, you have to cancel this debate. You have to cancel this debate.
Crazy.
At one point, they even threatened the UK's trade terms with China. I think they thought that I was perhaps a representative of the British state. I wasn't. I was a student. But I ignored them and I said, no, we're going to host this debate. We hosted the debate. It was a massive success. We heard strong arguments on either side. And frankly...
You know, it's a good thing that you were there to make sure that your university and its union upheld the values of Britain and our liberal democracy.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
Affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, and I'm joined by two comics that on any given weekend account for most complaints by comedy club audiences. It's Josh Howie and Scott Kapura. Who's the more controversial? I don't know.
You're Scott, surely you...
You're much warmer on stage than I am. I've been working with him recently, actually. I'm surprised how cuddly you are on stage.
Yeah.
And you get a couple of really good points across by being nice.
Yeah.
I'm too abrasive.
Abrasive, but that, you know...
I think you can get away with a lot with a smile, with a little twinkle.
You have got a little twinkle.
Little naughty.
I just did a yoga retreat in Switzerland, and they banned me.
What?
Well, they made me over in the corner.
They banned you from a yoga retreat?
Yeah. They asked me, why do yoga? Why are you here? Why are you on a retreat? I said, to meet women. And they didn't know it, and all these women got angry. I'm like,
OK, well...
Swiss have no sense of humour.
You need a filter, Scott. OK, we're going to start with Thursday's Times now, Josh, with some good news for Tory MPs who want to retire.
Indeed. Tories on course for the worst general election results the 1997 poll shows. So we have this story every so often, and it just keeps on getting worse.
Doesn't it
just? In January, they did it, and they were going, oh, they're going to lose really badly. And then now they've done a new YouGov poll, and they're like, no, they're really going to be losing.
But is it going to be like Brexit and Trump, where the polls are just completely wrong? Didn't someone say that Hillary Clinton had a 99.9% chance of winning? that election. You know, so could it be like that?
I
Maybe
don't think
debate,
so. It's
but-
all cyclical. This is what happened in '97.
And people are bored of the
But this is like the climate crisis. Like another glacier has fallen. It just gets worse and worse. And I think the Tories are just, I think they've just run over their head. They've totally given up.
But what's new about this is it's saying Labour will become the biggest party in Scotland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that's new.
Yeah, but if there's anyone worse than the Tories, it's the SNP.
Well, there's that.
More deserved of being kicked out. But the problem is that not having a strong opposition is not good for a democracy.
No, it's not. It's not.
It allows Labour whichever party's in power, to really do whatever they want. The Tories have had that for the last 5 years, and they've kind of squandered it and in inaction and
infighting,
inadequacy.
Because I know you like Labour, Josh, but aren't you concerned by some of their policies having no one to sort of say, hold on a minute?
No, I am.
The Lib Dems, they might win 48 seats. It says so in the article.
Aren't the Lib Dems even worse on certain issues? They're certainly worse
on certain trans stuff.
No,
they're liars.
They're massively captured.
They lie.
So what about the idea that we move to a situation where there are lots and lots of smaller parties? We get proportional representation. We have more coalitions.
Like
then
Holland.
you get that kind of you get that kind of balance. I like that.
But the problem is in Holland they elected that guy and then they said no, you're too mean. We're not going to work with you. There's that problem
there's
too.
all of that
Getting
sort of
people to
stuff.
work together.
And the British people, we didn't want it. We had that opportunity, and
That was weird, wasn't it?
And we just were like, actually, no, you know what?
Yeah, but they didn't offer us proportional representation. They offered that weird alternative vote thing, AV or something like that. And no one understood it. Like, not even the people who were selling it understood it.
And usually when people vote, they want one person. They don't want to think about, a go-to. They don't want that.
Like, proportional representation is really easy to understand.
Yeah.
Why do you elect more actors here? Glenda did really well. She did well.
Glenda
was
Jackson.
Good. She's very popular.
Yeah?
Did really good.
You want an actor in charge?
Well, they got a bit of clout. They're fun at a party.
It worked with Reagan. You know,
somebody young.
Well, we're going to be losing. There's quite a lot of Tory MPs who are going to be losing their jobs, and also people in cabinet as well.
Penny's out. Thank God. She's nuts.
As long as they don't, take our headliner slot, I'm fine.
Josh always thinking of himself.
Obviously.
Let's move on now to Tuesday's Mail, Scott. It turns out the biggest loser of Scotland's new hate crime law is its author.
Yes, apparently, Humza Yousaf hasn't done very well. He got the most complaints since Monday, since the law went into effect, and people were complaining about his Scottish Parliament speech on June 10th, 2020, which I rewatched, and it reminded me how racist it was, and people have complained about it.
It was racist,
oh my
wasn't
God,
it?
it's terrible.
Like, what, he was basically, berating the idea of...
It's a rant against white people. It's so strange to me, too, because it's like us complaining about an audience when we're on stage.
Yeah.
And we're closing a show. Look, these people already voted. You're fine. You're in office. They like you. Just do the good
Scotland
stuff.
something like 97% white? Why is he really that surprised that white people are overrepresented in those...
Yeah, it was some kind of shaming of
And he
the
named
country.
all the roles in the government,
So
in the public service and civil
But what is funny about this, they've brought through this hate speech law, nearly 4,000 complaints on day one. Just a couple of days earlier, Humza Yousaf was saying, there's not going to be vexatious complaints, and if there are, we'll take them very seriously. Well, most of them are about you, mate.
And people won't weaponize it, which obviously the public has done
They
already.
have hugely done it. I'm surprised it was as low as 4,000. But
J.K. Rowling came out all right?
So she didn't get as many as Humza Yousaf.
And they've already said we're not going to pursue this, that there's no crime.
And also they've said that... so she's also said that if anybody else uses those words who doesn't have her money or profile, that she will back them up and repeat those words herself. So it'll show the hypocrisy and they'd be able to get away with it. So it's protection.
Why, Josh? So basically, she's called their bluff.
Yeah.
She said, I'm going to misgender India Willoughby, whatever. You come after me then. And they've said, no, we won't. But is that just because she's so rich and powerful? They might go after someone smaller.
Well, they might, but that's why she has now stood up and said... But in the court of law, they'll say, well, look, J.K. Rowling said it, so you can't...
I think if they're going to go after anyone, they go after J.K. Rowling because of her high profile. That's good. If were they to win, it would have been great for them and great for India Willoughby, who is... I watched her video screaming in the car about how unfair she's being treated, India Willoughby. She is the worst Chucky sequel ever. She looks like the Chucky doll. That's who it is. I figured it out. I was wondering, and she's screaming like an angry man. Seriously.
It is
She's an angry man. She's got a crush on JK and she won't let it go.
But in all seriousness, if it continues like this, they're saying that there's going to be more of these crimes, fake crimes reported than actual crimes.
Yeah.
So the waste of police resources...
Well, you know that the police in Scotland just 2 months ago said that they were changing their strategy so they don't anymore investigate theft or vandalism if they're unlikely to solve it because they just don't have the manpower. But apparently they've got the
They're
police hours
they're
available
handling
to do
60
this.
complaints on average per hour currently.
Well, that's insane.
Of the 4,000 complaints. So you add it up, you can figure out how long it's going to take them.
Couldn't we just go to the point of saying, look, in a free society, people can say what they want because of free speech?
Yeah.
That would solve it.
Someone did something very funny where, the Minister for Victims and Community, Siobhan Brown, a complaint was made in her name with her telephone number, and then the police called her up to say, to check the complaint. So that's a waste of time right there.
This is such a farce. And, you know, Siobhan Brown was on the BBC misrepresenting the law. She got it wrong. Like, the SNP don't even know the law that they created.
Well, I mean, you know, the Humza himself said to camera last week, he said, no, this is not going to be weaponized. It won't be used in this way or that way. And they had a lawyer on the BBC later saying, it doesn't matter what he says. It's what the courts and what the police decide. Yeah. He has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, but that's what Siobhan Brown was saying, that, you know, this is all down to police discretion. They've got 2 hours of training, and then they're going to work out whether to proceed or not. Yeah. This is a total joke. The whole thing is a mess.
The scary thing is, as we were going back to the previous story, is whether Labour implements it when they come into power, because Scottish Labour say they would be interested in continuing it, which goes against, but Labour...
Edinburgh gays are going to go after each other. That Edinburgh gay scene is so bitter.
Oh, people are, of course, they're going to use it for their own little revenge.
I've had the meanest thing said about me by gay men.
Oh, really?
I hate gay men.
OK, well, on that homophobic note...
Send your complaint to Police Scotland right now.
Do. Now, Josh, teachers in The Telegraph giving themselves an A+. I imagine you'd like to appeal?
Yeah, this is the story that's going to make my head explode. So, we save lives by prolonging school closures in pandemic, says teachers.
Winning. You've said a lot about this in the past because...
but
go on, I'm going to let you off.
It's just that you... OK. The NEU, the National Education Union, are having their conference at the moment, and they have actually put forward a motion saying, look how great we were by basically ruining a generation of children's future and causing mental health issues and causing some of the lowest results recorded.
Maths scores are terrible.
Maths and English.
Yes.
And they are proud of it and going, well done us.
For a virus that didn't affect children.
Exactly.
That didn't exist. The Guardian actually ran an article last week, I read while I was in Switzerland at the yoga retreat where I was banned, stating that the average kid is about a half year behind now because of the shutdown. And that many kids will never catch up to that, that has effectively ruined their lives.
Yes.
And that social distancing in schools was unnecessary and didn't work.
Well, they masked these kids.
They masked them. Even that didn't work. The Guardian saying this, if you had said that even just a year ago, you would have sounded like a crazy conspiratorial person. Yeah. And now they're admitting it.
I find it crazy that the children were not at risk. Old people were at risk. The vulnerable were at risk.
That was shown very, very early on. But the fact that the NEU, which, by the way, is controlled by a bunch of super cranky people...
Yeah, terrible.
The fact that they're not actually just apologising or taking some level of ownership of it,
really.
but to actually go, you're welcome.
Yeah. But that's what activists do. They completely say the opposite. They gaslight. They say the opposite. The NEU is an activist body, which also happens to be the largest teaching union in the country. It's a disaster.
Are they the ones telling kids to not tell their parents that they want to transition?
Oh, they're doing all of that sort of stuff. I don't know if they're doing that specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me. They're the ones that organise protests and,
I'm surprised that they actually had time to put forward this motion instead of doing some anti-Israel motion as well.
Probably.
That's next.
Yeah.
You know, is there a way that schools can just say, you know, you can't be a member of that union because it's not really a union?
Well, do you know what? I've got a lot of friends who are teachers, and a lot of them have actually left the NEU. They're Jewish, and they feel like they believe that it's anti-Semitic.
It's not just on the Israel issue. They are wrong on every single issue.
But every story wrong on this. About the pandemic just upsets me now. I mean, I just read in California, the average age of someone who died was 81 in the pandemic.
Which is older than
the average age of death. So it extends people's lives.
It was a health thing. No, I mean, I had it 3 times. It was pretty grim. But I wasn't in the risky bracket, you know?
You had a flu.
Oh, no, Scott, it was a worse... Oh, it could have been a hangover.
You've been hanging out with Lewis too much.
We're going to move on now to the Express and forget buying a home. Now people can't even rent one.
No, apparently because of higher interest rates, right? There are more buy-to-let mortgages in arrears, so there's fewer available flats and fewer people looking to rent flats. But what that means is because there's less property available, there's more people looking for fewer properties.
I see. Yeah. Any thoughts on this
one?
one?
Well, just that 10 renters for every property. And I hear anecdotally from... anecdotally? That's the word, isn't it? Yeah. Of course. OK.
Close enough. We know
I heard you use it once.
Yeah.
From people who work here, who are renters, who missed out on... who are still... It's just not... Just to get a place is just... is really, really hard.
You should show up with a pizza.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, and a cake. You're just trying to impress the person who owns the place. Anything you can do. Send them a nudie.
That sounds like that episode of Friends where Ross is trying to get the flat and he sends him a basket of mini muffins.
You know what?
Do you really have to
every
like
story comes down to an episode of Friends.
It actually does. They've covered the whole gamut of human existence.
It was a wonderful show.
They covered the pandemic too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did, in a subtle, insidious way. Anyway, that's the end of this part. We've hit the halfway point and the downward slope till midnight. Teaching kids to treat gun wounds, teaching parents to bake a potato, and teaching MPs fake news. All of these stories are true, or are they? Find out in a moment.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update. Well, there will be some further heavy rain first thing across southern areas, but in general, Thursday offers some much drier weather compared to the wet weather we've seen recently. Northeastern areas have suffered the most with the rain throughout today. That rain will clear away through tonight, but the next batch arrives into the southwest. We'll see 2 bursts of rain. This one will turn heavy at first in the southwest, but as it pushes into parts of northern England, it will turn a little bit dry, but most areas will see some heavy outbreaks of rain through the night. Further north and west, though, it should stay dry, and we could see a touch of frostbite tomorrow morning. But it's in the southwest tomorrow morning where the heaviest rain will be, and that will push into parts of Wales, the Midlands, into the southeast throughout the rush hour. So if you are moving about on Thursday morning, expect some tricky travelling conditions. Once that does clear out the way, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers for many areas of England and Wales. There will be some decent sunny spells in between. It will feel fairly pleasant in that sunshine, but further north, it's going to considerably drier day than it has been lately. We'll see highs of around 10 or 11 degrees across northwestern areas. It's still cold though in the far north of Scotland, and as the next batch of rain bumps into that cold air on Friday morning, there's a risk of some snow across the Highlands and Grampians, and we'll see outbreaks of quite heavy rain push through many northern areas throughout Friday. Further south though, it turns drier as the day goes on, but the weekend is looking unsettled and seasonably windy, but exceptionally mild. That's all for now. Bye-bye.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. We're going to get straight back into it with The Telegraph. And will the SNP conversion bill get through on a wing and a prayer? It's you, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, they were out of order a little bit. Sorry about that. Yes, the conversion bill. The SNP plans to ban conversion therapy.
Yes.
Even though there are local groups like religious leaders and parents saying, we don't want you to do that because what if we have a consulting moment with our child, or we want our child to pray their way out of being gay? How is that going to be?
What's the law at the moment
illegal?
on that? I mean, because conversion therapy, I think of the kind of wiring people up to electrodes, you know, aversion
I think if the
therapy.
public is paying for it, it's illegal. That's what I think it is. If the NHS is providing it, then that's illegal. But if a parent says, "Oh, my daughter says she's a lesbian, can you make her pray? Maybe she'll be heterosexual afterward," that's not confusion.
The thing is,
currently,
what I would say is that it doesn't work. That's
which part?
Are you speaking from personal experience?
The praying the gay away thing, it never ever works.
Do a shout out to Andrew's mum.
Yeah.
But you know, just that's the point about it. I mean, it's not the same as those old, now illegal conversion therapy practices that I'm talking about, the medical attempts to convert. But the praying thing, you know, it might be distressing, but it's not the same. It's not on the same level.
Well, but the interesting thing is that when we've talked about this in the past, it's always been about usually focusing on the trans issue and the risks of the people who might be doing talking therapy to them being made illegal.
Yes.
Those practices here. And actually, I read someone online said it made a good point. It's not about, we talk about converting trans kids, but really what we're really talking about is converting gay kids and autistic kids.
Yes, yeah.
To trans.
Yeah, of course.
But what's interesting on this angle is that this is coming from religious people, and it's saying that this connects more to the gay conversion as we understand it.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree that gay conversion is wrong. I think in any way, even the prayer element of it is this idea that you can pray away the gay is a ridiculous idea.
It's just not true. But on the other hand,
true, really?
But on the other,
it's sexy though, isn't it? It is. That's what I like. I like a bit of free song. I like people feeling bad about themselves. They'll do just about anything.
I mean, I do like seeing the sort of the people who run these conversion centres, and they're often usually obviously
really
gay,
hugely
like flamboyantly
tiny
camp.
hands can't fight back. I know it's true. Every
It's
time.
funny, but just the thing is though, religious freedom is also important, and if people want to say homosexuality is wrong and we will pray for you, they should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, but if they're forcing you to pray for an hour with them...
No, forcing someone to pray should be illegal anyway. Forcing someone to do anything shouldn't be allowed.
This is my story. Can I talk? Also, no, I'm kidding. But it's also about, I think, the church not wanting anyone infiltrating their therapy sessions for other issues too, not just for gay conversion.
Right.
I think if they think they give this to the courts and say, oh, this can be, then anything that they consult people on is going to be seen as illegal.
Did anyone ever pray for you, Scott, to get you out of it?
No, but my mother bought me a pair of knee pads when I was younger, hoping it would save me, but I used them for something else.
OK, the Daily Mail next, and Josh, an interesting solution to the doctor shortage.
Yes, disbelief at sad state of affairs as police are brought into schools to teach 13-year-olds how to treat stab and gunshot wounds. Now, I would suggest that when it gets to this point, we might have already...
There's a problem. There's definitely a problem at that point, yeah.
Yes. This is a school in an inner-city London academy, and, that is in Southwark and Southwark?
Southwark. Are you all right?
You sound like an American trying to pronounce it.
Even I know that.
I apologise.
I think it's good kids learn skills, though, at an early age, isn't it, really?
Well, there's that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that is, rather than, of course, I'm sure that they also have, hopefully, some lessons going, don't stab people, don't shoot people. But the idea that it gets to this point is, of course...
But again, we're going after the symptom, not the cause.
But it's Southern Croydon, because I read a lot of stabbings and shootings happen there. Is it there?
It is around there, 5% of the total.
Yeah, it's correct.
And Brent and Greenwich and Newham, these are 25% of all the homicides in the last 7 years. Yeah, I lived there for a few years.
Yeah,
is Greenwich rough?
Can be.
I mean,
it's really posh.
Deptford, you got Deptford just there.
Is Deptford rough?
There's council...
Is Deptford rough?
Come on, there's council blocks right in Greenwich, right around the corner.
You're right. Christopher Marlowe was stabbed in the face in Deptford in the 1500s.
Yes.
Okay, well...
So
it's not changed much.
Real problem.
Knife crime's always been an issue there.
Yeah.
Anyway, OK, we're going to move on to the Mail now, Scott. Is there a doctor shortage because they've all become chefs?
That's the thing. GPs are trying to teach kids who are fat how to not be fat. So they're teaching...
that is a very offensive terminology.
Well, what is?
No, it's teaching the parents.
Oh, right. No, but it's one guy said, I had one mom and her child was overweight, but she was a young parent. She actually didn't know how to cook the dinner. So she spent time with her and the child, So maybe the mom's fat, too. So a couple of fat people that are eating cheese sandwiches and stuff, and they're teaching them how to eat, cucumbers and things, how to cook decent meals without...
Can you do this story, Josh, without fat-shaming anyone?
No, because the point is the whole country's getting fat, and especially all these kids, they're going to have that for the rest of their life.
37% of kids are
I have
fat.
spoken to fat activists who tell me that there is no health risks with being morbidly obese.
Except for when they die 20, 30 years
but I haven't spoken to those people.
Is that Danish comedian?
Yeah.
That's Sophia, the fat one?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, she makes the limo drive her up to the front of the theatre because she can't walk it. That's the thing. If it's more than 3 meters, she complains because she's fat. I'm just saying, I mean, I know I'm skinny. It's a curse to be thin like this because people blame me for being skinny when their problem is that they're fat.
But should GPs be teaching people
No, they
to
shouldn't.
cook?
But there is a problem here because there is, as it said here, they used to have excellent cookery teaching in school.
Yes.
These kind of things. Look, I read an interesting thing today. It was like, what is school for in terms of getting you ready for jobs?
Right.
But as opposed to getting you ready for life.
Yes.
And we don't get taught these things anymore about how to get a mortgage, how to do bank. There are some very basic skills that a lot of people aren't learning. And
we didn't learn how to cook at school.
You did?
No, we didn't. I think we made an Arctic roll.
But I think the problem
and I've been to a dinner party at your house and the food.
Well, we didn't really do food.
No, you served Tesco.
I just think that there should be more focus on preparing you for life as well as being in work.
Less microwave bells when you have guests over. How about that?
Oh, now this is about me.
I heard the microwave in the other room.
Yeah, because that's how I cook. It's a device that cooks.
Processed food is cheaper, it's easier.
It's tastier.
It's tastier.
It's fattening.
It's addictive, and of course that's why people are choosing all of those.
I saw you sneaking our food into your purse or whatever it was.
What? That's a leather backpack I'll have.
Well, whatever it was, I was very offended.
It was Gucci.
Well, look, don't offend my cooking. Anyway, let's move on now to
in inverted commas.
This is the Times. Josh, this story's enough to make you sick.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Calories on menus will trigger people with eating disorders. This is another law in Scotland. They are really going all out. And a group of something called... What are they called? Bite? No, that's not what they're called. Beat, sorry. That was not a joke, genuinely. I thought they were called Bite.
OK.
200 people, they're saying, are going to be were asked questions, and they said, it's going to trigger them because if they see calories, it's going to thin-shame them or something.
Yep.
But again, you have this totalitarian, or utilitarian, sorry, idea that what's the best for the most people. And I'm sorry if a couple of people get triggered.
You think it's good to have the calories on the menu?
I think, why not? It's good, if it's going to help people, and if it's... We need all the help we can get. If you're going to see that and go, whoa, wait a minute, that's double the amount... I don't even understand how calories work. But if you compare it and you go, wait a minute, that's going to make me a bit fat,
well, maybe there's something to that. But so the idea is that people see the calories and they get upset. And then they don't have anything. Is that what they're saying?
Well, that's what they're saying here, but it's...
or do they
people
get upset they eat too
disorders.
much? That's how they react to stress, maybe. Is that they overeat when they see the calories because they think that it's lost. The whole thing is lost. I'll never get ahead, or I'll never lose this weight.
So I may as well just...
Yeah, shove it in.
I don't think more information is a bad thing.
Yeah,
but
right.
I do think that just kowtowing to a few people who will be affected, it's like, just close your eyes.
Yeah.
OK, well, let's move on now. Scott, The Guardian...
We have to close our eyes when we look at you, right? That's what you mean.
I mean, that's very offensive.
Yeah.
OK, The Guardian has a story about recognising fake news from The Sun when it could have just used its own coverage of the Whisper incident.
Fabricated stories in the press have become quite a thing, and so the Sun's Hillsborough story has been used as an example to teach MPs what fake news actually looks like. So they've provided a good information kit for the House of Commons so that MPs can, rifle through stories and decide what's
real, what's not.
Yeah,
this is about The Sun blaming the fans for the Hillsborough
and then The Sun apologised in 2012
yes.
With a front-page apology where they claimed they had used misinformation.
Yeah.
When actually they'd lied.
So there's all of this stuff about misinformation now. It seems to be the main obsession about everyone online. Josh, is it not the case, though, that the reason we're in this position where so many people are believing fake news is because the legacy media, the mainstream media, has been caught lying to us so many times, so people go elsewhere. Isn't that the problem?
That's exactly what the problem is. And it's like you said in your link, when you have, like, the Wispa, is the Guardian, the way that it reported it was like that they called out on that it even happened. For people who don't know about it, there was a sexual assault, or a man showed his bits saying he was a trans woman in the spa in LA. And the way that Guardian reported it was like this woman was making it up, and it turned out because she went to church, that she was right-wing. She's a black lady with a 6-year-old daughter. And it was utterly shameful, their reporting. So the idea that they're kind of calling attention to this misinformation is ridiculous, because they are just as guilty
we've also had
as everybody.
the BBC doing it recently, just stuff that isn't true.
Well,
by omittance.
But the intent, I think, of news stories should be to sort of limit the agenda. But it seems as though that's all that sells papers now. People do, as it turns out, when they're reading stories, they're craving the knowledge of the perspective of the writer. It's very strange.
Yeah, but I don't want that. I just want to know what happened, and I'll make my own mind up.
But again, you're university educated. Most people are thick.
I'm sick of.
But you want facts. You want the information. But that's exactly right. I think you're right. I think newspapers. It's just now to reinforce the belief of their readership.
OK, well, we've got to go to a break now. It's just one more section to go. But we've got some fascinating water cooler stories for you. We've got Sato dominance, self-aware ants, and growing vegan shoes. Come back in a few minutes.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan Tonight, weekends from 9 p.m.
We've got a problem in this country, and it smells like you-know-what, because it is you-know-what. It's all throughout our waterways. They're absolutely full of it. You'd think in the 6th richest nation you could manage basic sanitation, but in 2024 in the UK, you'd be wrong. And it's so bad that this weekend's boat race was affected by the amount of E. coli in the Thames. I know what you're thinking. When will these kids who go to Oxford and Cambridge universities get a break in life? But it is an embarrassment. We can't hold an event on our rivers now. The rowers were given safety advice before the race that they should avoid getting any splashed water in their mouths during a rowing race. You might as well tell them to try not to rush. Leonard Jenkins of the Oxford men's team said it would be a lot nicer if there wasn't as much poo in the water. How terrible that needs to be said. The only time that would be worse is if you read that in a TripAdvisor review of a cafe. On Wednesday, Environment Agency figures revealed raw sewage spills doubled last year in England to 3.6 million hours of spills, compared with 1.75 million hours in 2022. I was shocked that it happens so much we have to measure poos by the hour. To put that in context that you might understand, an hour of poo is about 30 trips for a woman and about 2 for a man. This is because our water systems get overwhelmed when they get a lot of rain. Hello, have you met the UK before? Rain is pretty much our thing. Sewage is spilled into the waterways to prevent the system backing up. In a statement issued before the race, Thames Water said, "We have experienced higher than average long-term rainfall across London." Yeah, how can you have higher than average long-term rainfall? If it's long-term, it increases the average. Do the math, step up and learn to cope with it.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Thursday's newspapers. Josh, we're going to kick off with the Times now, where it's moon o'clock.
Yeah, White House asks NASA to create time zone for the moon. Next year, they're going to be going back to flying around the moon. Hopefully in 26, they're going to actually land on the moon again. Good. Which is going to be interesting for the people who are like the moon conspiracy people who believe it didn't exist.
Oh, well, they're crazy. But the thing is, we haven't done this for ages, and I think it's wonderful
Humanity
that we're going back to the moon.
Forward.
Yeah.
But we don't know the time up there. It's different gravity. It means there's a slightly slower time or fast time. I can't remember. Fast time. And so they need to work out. NASA's going to work out some universal system, which is going to be called coordinated lunar time.
Yes.
The question is, will a place like China or even India step in and go, wait a minute, why are you Americans controlling time?
Yeah, it's going to be part of the space race.
Who owns the moon, by the way?
That's a good question. I think the Americans put the flag in it first. It's still there.
I think it's ours. The Russians didn't put a flag first?
No, didn't the Americans put it first?
They were just
I guess the Russians.
The Russians went around it. They could have chucked a flag at it.
I don't know.
But they didn't think to do that.
They spearheaded a flag.
So it'll be interesting, but whether they sync up like the days, like when it's
Yes.
New York time up there for the prime bit of it or not?
Well, this is the first step. The moon, then Mars, then beyond.
Then they can lay some train tracks. That's why they did that whole time zone thing in the U.S.
Is that
for
right?
The trains, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get a transport system on the moon.
Yeah, that works better than this one.
I'm sure it will.
Be great.
Yeah. OK, well, let's move on now to a story, Scott, in the Daily Mail. This is about incest in Japan.
Yeah, everybody in Japan is going to have the same name by 2531.
Now, how can that be?
Because they have to share a name, a married couple. They have to have the same name. And usually women give up their maiden name.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
Josh.
So they're getting, women's names are silly anyway. So they're going to limit it down. They're running out of names, basically, because they have a very limited vocabulary.
And it's this name, Sato. Is it Sato? Is that how you pronounce it?
Soto.
Sato.
Sato.
So in other words, people are everyone's going to end up with the same name. They've calculated this by this point. So aren't they going to have to change the rules? Because according to this civil code only came in 1898.
Yeah.
So that means it's not that old.
I know.
You know, it's not like an
They're running out already.
law.
They got 4 names. They got, I think, one is Suzuki, one is, I'm making these up, Takahashi, Suzuki, and Tanaka, and Sato. Those are the 4 names they've limited.
If we had a similar system in this country, everyone would end up being called Smith. Wouldn't they?
There's a lot.
So we need to. I think they just need to change the law.
Well, that's what they're trying to do because they want women to be able to use their own names for work.
Wouldn't it be better to invent new names? Like when 2 people get married, instead of arguing about.
Why don't you come up with a Japanese name right on air?
I'll do it right now.
A Japanese-sounding name.
How about Shishi?
There we go. I'll go. What about karaoke?
Okay.
That's a good name.
Someone's getting cancelled.
A little bit racist, but yeah, sure. Yeah, that's all right. But I mean, I think that the problem is really in the story I was reading, and I've been to Japan and worked there, the problem is that the women don't have any power. I mean, they really still don't, even after all these decades of women trying to empower themselves in Japan. There are no...
Still a patriarchal society.
Very much so. And so I think changing that could help.
So actually, changing this law would be good for women.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe let the women decide what the name is.
But look, it's all moot because, as they point out, because of the declining birth rate, there's going to be no Japanese people alive at that time.
You know that, right?
They're going to be extinct, basically.
Yeah, they all
sounds
leave.
very alarmist to me.
Not living in Japan. You know that in Japan, all little towns have cleared out. That the property, as it ages, the property becomes less valuable.
Yes.
So the Japanese either leave or they move to urban areas, and so there's no young people left. So the teachers teach dummies built as children. They're all fake children in classrooms.
Wait, this sounds made
They
up.
replaced all the young people with
This
dummies.
sounds like a John Grisham
And even the
film.
dummies are overweight.
Yeah, with the same name.
Let's move on to the Telegraph now. Josh, what goes up must come down.
Indeed, sperm counts fall as temperatures rise, new research suggests. And this is scientists in Singapore have found that normally sperm declines when you get older, and
I can
not
still
that it
brick.
matters.
Are you kidding?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's the quality and not the quantity.
It's about numbers for me.
The point is, but men in their prime, their sperm climb, and that's obviously relevant because temperature's increasing on average around the world.
But I thought men could have children up until their 80s.
Well, they can, but as Lewis Schaefer will attest, possibly.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a problem. You're going to have to ice your testicles if you want to have kids. I guess.
You have to ice them.
Well, I'm guessing so. If this is the only way to have kids.
My sperm levels are quite high still.
Okay.
I'm not bragging.
Sounds like
That's
you're
why
bragging.
you had them tested for what purpose?
Every year I do.
Let's move on. Intelligent animals in the mail, Scott, or as we call him, Lewis.
A lot of people think that, chimpanzees are smart, dolphins, whales, maybe dogs, maybe cats. Cats are smart. But as it turns out, they decided at the Barcelona Zoo that hooved creatures are actually capable of doing complex mental math.
Is that true?
Giraffes. They've given
Giraffes can use an abacus.
Yes, giraffes can count fruit and vegetables and tell you how many there are.
In their heads.
Yeah.
They can't tell you how many there are.
No, but they'll work out which has got the most.
Like that, yeah, they thump it.
Is that right?
No, they're really good. They say it's because they could look at different trees.
Yes.
And look, I won't go into what the experiments are, but I don't think a human could do some of this stuff.
I find it very scary.
Eyes.
What, scary animals?
I find it when animals are revealed to be able to do things like solve puzzles.
Yes.
And that kind of.
Look how they've survived with us ruining the planet. They're so much smarter than we are.
Well, apparently dolphins.
But dolphins, So they would basically in this tank. For every bit of rubbish, they would get a fish. And what one dolphin did was hit a piece of rubbish and then broke it up into smaller bits.
What?
To then do it. And then it figured out that you would also get a fish if you saved a gull. So it used the last fish to capture a gull to get even more fish and then trained its kid, and now it's taken over the world.
You don't find that scary? Like, you've seen Planet of the Apes, it'll be Planet of the Dolphins.
Or something. Possibly, or porcupines or whatever.
Planet of the Porcupines would be terrifing. Are they clever?
Porpoises, sorry.
Planet of the Sheep.
But yes, it is interesting to see. Basically, this is vegetarian propaganda, and I will still eat dolphins and giraffes. I don't care.
You're bad.
The show is nearly over now. Let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. So the Daily Mail is running with MPs caught in naked honey trap sex sting. The Telegraph is running with judges to look at soft terms for deprived offenders. And The Guardian has former Supreme Court judges add voices to calls for Israeli arms ban. The Times is leading with blood tests to help spot Alzheimer's years earlier. And Thursday's Express, Rishi Sunak is saying we're going to quit the Euro court if Rwanda flights are blocked. And finally, the Daily Star, they're looking for Excalibur. That's all we've got time for. Thanks ever so much to my guests, Josh Howie and Scott Capurro. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Steve N. Allen and Francis Foster. And if you're watching the 5am repeat, stay tuned because now it's time for breakfast.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update. Well, there will be some further heavy rain first thing across southern areas, but in general, Thursday offers some much drier weather compared to the wet weather we've seen recently. Northeastern areas have suffered the most with the rain throughout today. That rain will clear away through tonight, but the next batch arrives into the southwest. We'll see 2 bursts of rain. This one will turn heavy at first in the southwest, but as it pushes into parts of northern England, it will turn a little bit dry, but most areas will see some heavy outbreaks of rain through the night. Further north and west, though, it should stay dry, and we could see a touch of frostbite tomorrow morning. But it's in the southwest tomorrow morning where the heaviest rain will be, and that will push into parts of Wales, the Midlands, into the southeast throughout the rush hour. So if you are moving about on Thursday morning, expect some tricky travelling conditions. Once that does clear out the way, we'll see a mix of sunshine and showers for many areas of England and Wales. There will be some decent sunny spells in between. We'll feel fairly pleasant in that sunshine, but further north, it's going to considerably drier day than it has been lately. We'll see highs of around 10 or 11 degrees across northwestern areas. It's still cold though in the far north of Scotland, and as the next batch of rain bumps into that cold air on Friday morning, there's a risk of some snow across the Highlands and Grampians, and we'll see outbreaks of quite heavy rain push through many northern areas throughout Friday. Further south though, it turns drier as the day goes on, but the weekend is looking unsettled and seasonably windy, but exceptionally mild. That's all for now. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
With thanks to Variety Cruises, a family company